Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, so today we're stepping right into a seriously chilling, grimdark Gothic fable. You know the setting, the realm of the Sapphire Wanderer. But hey, we're not just here to admire that gorgeous dark aesthetic, right? We are taking a deep, profound philosophical descent. We're going to use this visually stunning, starless void to unpack some incredibly heavy concepts, specifically the Fichtean dialectic. Basically, it's a story of the ultimate clash between human stubbornness, our ego, and a universe that just wants everything to stop. So let's ground ourselves with a quote that absolutely nails the vibe here. True power is not found in the silence of Solaire, but in the ability to carry the agony of blazing abyss and call it a banquet. That is straight from a giant of the Violet Realm, and man, it hooks us right into the dark heart of this fable. It's totally challenging the idea that peace, or, total silent nothingness is the ultimate goal. Instead, it's arguing that real power is taking the raw, chaotic, burning suffering of existence and literally feasting on it. It's a fierce, fierce rejection of terminal stillness. Chapter 1. Descent into Frozen Reality. Let's head down into the starless void where this fable unfolds. Now, our setting is called The Great Evening. And as you can see, this isn't just nighttime. In this lore, the Great Evening is literally the terminal phase of existence. The fiery, chaotic struggles of the universe, they've completely burned out. What's left is a frozen reality ruled by this concept of nihilism triumphant. It's the crushing weight of a concluded era. Think of it less as a physical place and actually more as the idea of absolute, permanent completion made physical. The universe is over, the story's done. And the symbols here really anchor that bleak visual language. We don't have a warm sun anymore. Instead, we get the Star of High Time, a mimic sun that casts this cold, shimmering, regal clarity, which really just highlights the inkier blackness around it. Then there's the Inquisitor Tower, a physical monument that represents the absolute strongest cage ever built, the human self, now totally permanent and still. And lighting all of this is the Zero Flame. It's a haunting yellow flicker where all kinetic energy has been solved into one unwavering icy focus. It's visually stunning, but wow, utterly desolate. Moving on to Chapter 2, Thesis, the Absolute Ego. Right, so against this backdrop of absolute stillness, we meet our protagonist. He's basically a walking, breathing philosophical concept. This is the Jester of Sapphire Light. Philosophically speaking, the Jester represents what Fichte called the absolute I, the absolute ego. So in a universe that has completely frozen over and finished its story, the Jester is this loud, weeping thesis. He literally vibrates with unassimilated voltage. The cosmos is demanding total silence, but the Jester has this fierce, stubborn, biological insistence on being. It's kind of the ultimate human stubbornness facing down the void. He flat out refuses to be perfectly finished by the silent cosmos, choosing instead to carry the agony of the universe like a regal shadow. Chapter 3. Antithesis, the Frozen Void. Of course, every thesis needs an antithesis, right? If the Jester is the insistence on existing, the environment is the force trying to rub him out. Here's where we break down that core Fichtean dialectic at the heart of our explainer. On one side, we have the absolute I, the Jester, packed with chaotic voltage and weeping life. On the other side, the absolute not I. This is the environment itself, the jagged ice, the presence of the lunar spirit. And listen, this isn't just a chilly landscape, it is a force of clinical negation. It's the definitive mathematical no of the universe. It demands absolute stillness and the total erasure of all kinetic friction. It essentially looks at the Jester's existence as a messy, glitchy error that needs to be solved precisely and permanently down to zero. But hey, we aren't totally alone in this void. Enter the Mercurial Spirits. These tragic entities visually embody the final thermodynamic echoes of this desolate realm. Picture animated ice statues flowing with liquid metal mercury that acts like a weeping itchor over the frost, and they're illuminated by that haunting residual zero flame we talked about. These are spirits who inherited vessels of ice, and they are deeply haunted by the cosmic memories of those who refused the mercy of nothingness. They're just agonizingly trapped between existence and erasure. And this sets up a deeply dark, philosophical dialogue right out there on the ice. The Jester, who's driven by this clinical, calculating edge right now, looks at these animated ice statues and coldly dismisses them as merely thermodynamic noise. He actually believes their residual energy should just be stilled so the universe can finally rest. But the spirits, they push back. They weep, their liquid metal ichor literally shivering as they cry out that They are the concentrated sorrow of a cosmos that once felt things. It's such a gripping, tragic debate between the absolute ego and the frozen echoes of reality. You have to ask yourself, is existence a curse to be cured or a sorrow to be carried?
Chapter 4. The Alchemical Sapphire Synthesis.
Well, that tension absolutely cannot hold forever. Let's watch these opposing forces violently collide. This collision actually forces the Jester through an alchemical transformation, and we can trace it step by step. First, his clinical order completely collapses into verdant corruption, burning with this vivid emerald fire. Second, he hits the Red Room where a rune of Inferno is grafted onto him. That's the crimson heat marking active, fiery suffering. And finally, he grasps the Violet Resonance, accepting the raw biological insistence of the Giantkin. He takes all these disparate primal forces and smashes them together using the broken sapphire gem. He's literally taking the chaos of life and violently synthesizing it. And wow, the result is breathtaking. This is the apotheosis. The Fichtean synthesis is officially achieved. The Jester transforms into a towering figure made of semi-solid sapphire living ink. He successfully reconciles the absolute I, that stubborn identity, with the absolute not I, the frozen negation. He becomes a finished monument, a walking thermodynamic echo that has miraculously achieved perfect geometric symmetry with the sheer chaos of the soul. He can now carry the crushing weight of a concluded era without collapsing. He has, for all intents and purposes, become a tragic, dark divinity. Chapter 5. Preserving the Final Noise. So, what does a god of the frozen void do when the story is over? Let's get into our final act. Because of his synthesis, the Jester now wields the ultimate weapon of the lunar spirit, the negation gaze. And this is a terrifying power. The lore describes it as a visual Z-pinch plasma touch. Basically, whatever the Jester looks at gets hit with a definitive mathematical no. Any remaining kinetic friction, any speck of life, any movement at all is instantly forced into absolute stillness. He literally has the power to unmake the final remnants of reality just by looking at them. Now, notice the stark visual contrast here as we bring in his companion, the Last Thinker. On one side, the Jester has achieved the arithmetic of the Overman. He's this finished monument of shimmering, regal clarity. But on the flip side, the Last Thinker operates on the arithmetic of the slave. He is this massive, multi-limbed arachnid creature trapped in a self-imposed prison of frantic data collection. His cybernetic limbs are constantly clicking away, doing prehensile logging of the frozen wasteland. He is a loud, messy, vibrating bundle of kinetic friction, which is, you guessed it, exactly the kind of thing the Jester's negation gaze is designed to erase. So the entire climax of this explainer hinges on this exact moment. The Jester's gaze sweeps toward the Last Thinker. If he looks at him, the Thinker just becomes a stilled silicate artifact. But, in a profound act of will, the Jester deliberately dampens his vision. He subverts the very absolute stillness he just mastered. He realizes that if he erases the Thinker, the universe isn't perfectly complete, it's just completely empty. So he chooses to spare the Last Thinker. He makes a conscious, deliberate choice to preserve his companion's chaotic thermodynamic noise.
And because of that choice, the Fichtean dialogue persists, even at the very end of the world. The Unmaker and the Chronicler are now bound together. The Thinker survives, pulling out his new journal of chaos, and continues to frantically scratch the weight of a concluded era into his records. He's allowed to exist as residual kinetic friction within the starless void. The Jester accepts that some chaos, some ink, is simply meant to endure alongside his own tragic divinity. It's this incredibly profound act of compassionate witnessing at the end of all things.
We've explored the strongest cage ever built and the agonizing beauty of the Fichtean struggle between existence and erasure. The Jester ultimately chose to keep a spark of chaotic noise alive in the frozen dark. So, I'll leave you with this to chew on. When the universe around you reaches its absolute zero and all external demands fall completely silent, what chaotic ink of your own identity will you choose to preserve? Thanks so much for joining me on this descent. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.